Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of Sim Sundays by Gridfinder. This week, it's just me. Chris is on vacation, as he would say. This is episode 2 of our live show. Episode 1 is now live on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts, which is kind of exciting. So if you didn't see last weekend's one, you can listen to it on Spotify. This week, I'm joined by Danny Giusa, who's sim racing manager at Ad Hoc Gaming. Then he was simulator instructor at My Days in Berlin. He was then the Hout Racing Team esports team manager and driver. He was host of the Sim Racing Expo at the Nürburgring, and he's now project head of sim racing at Kavana Gaming and Twitter meme lord. Welcome, Danny Giusa.
Hello. Thank you for being here.
Welcome to the show. This is kind of exciting. We've kind of known each other known of each other, we should say, for a little while. The first time was at the Sim Racing Expo, right?
Yeah, of course. This was the first time we saw it there, yeah.
Yeah, and that was kind of fun. I remember seeing you up on the stage and you were presenting all the different shows, and I was milling around in the expos, and lots happened since then.
Oh yeah. It feels like an eternity, to be honest. It's not even a year away, but so many stuff changed in the background, and my current work is I'm already spent 6 months at the new company, and feel like 2 at least. Let's talk about.
There is a lot to talk about, and as I was going through that list, obviously I've been doing some research this week. I've been doing some stalking about you. Been looking at various different websites and getting some information, some insights. And I kind of noticed that your CV is so intensely related to sim racing, right? The whole point of this podcast is that we get people who have an insight into the world of sim racing, that they're kind of behind the scenes, if you like, a little bit. And your CV is just sim racing, sim racing, sim racing, sim racing. What is it like to work in sim racing full time?
Yeah, basically, the full time experience is like the 1st of this year. So 1st of January this year was the first time that I really went full time into it. The last years was like okay, kind of full time, but by your passion. And now I'm lucky enough and very, very thankful for that I'm able to work full time in sim racing. And yeah, it's on some sides it's awesome. On the other ones, it's a bit kind of a trade-off because you follow your passion, but especially these kind of evenings when I can just drive for pleasure, that's kind of rare at the moment.
Yeah, okay, well that's interesting, because my next question was going to be like, what's the effect on your enjoyment of sim racing as a hobby when you have to do it as your 9 to 5?
Let's say 9 to 5 would be great. In the last couple of weeks, 9 to 5 wasn't the regular. So I think last Friday I worked like 10 and a half hours. But then I can't complain because, as you said, somebody behind the scenes. Now, earlier, my other jobs and hobbies, I was kind of in the front end, kind of the back, but now I'm totally in the background of everything. So with organizing the ADC Sim Racing Expo, having also still a new team, even with familiar drivers, it's amazing, and I'm really now in the process of creating the experience and helping Sim Racing to grow. But still, the love for the hobby and the actual driving and still is actually more than ever, because now I can, when I close my laptop finishing the work, then I have more like, that's the getaway for me from the work. So driving actually is the getaway and like relaxing a bit in the cockpit. It sounds kind of awkward, but it is like this, yeah.
No, I actually get that. I went through a similar period when I was starting Gridfinder, where beforehand I'd been racing and been trying to be competitive, right? So it was the F1 game. So, some people say that's not a sim, others will say it's a simcade, others will say Marco. It doesn't matter, right? It's exactly. My thoughts exactly. But I was kind of taking it really seriously, and I was practicing quite a lot between all the races, and I was going through setups, and I was trying to learn a bit about setups, and then come to the race. I try and do an hour's practice beforehand, but then leave a gap before qualifying so I can kind of reset myself, and then really thinking about strategy. Then when I started working on Gridfinder, and it was, all day, every day thinking about sim racing, and as you said, right, creating the experience of sim racing rather than sim racing itself, what I found is that when I was going to the sim rig, I would much prefer to load up AC, load up the Nordschleife, and then just do some casual laps, but with some music on in the background or a podcast. And it was almost driving as therapy as opposed to for sport.
Yeah, totally. I totally support that. The funny thing is, you talked about or referencing about that sim racing is so much of my CV, right? But I have a life before I stepped into the virtual racing, and that was also connected to racing. I had a karting team with my father, stepped into a bit of Formula touring cars driving, but never had the money, sadly, to fulfill that dream. But still, I have like really, really one memory which stick for me. Like I think it's like 15 years. I trained at my home circuit, and I was the only one on the whole circuit because it was a Wednesday or something like that. At my home circuit, I always arrived on Wednesday and just want to have like one day of driving with myself. And and the sun came down, and the track is like have elevation changes to come up and go down, and then having like a cool right-hander down, which is flat out, even in the shifter cart. And then you go up to a crest, and then there's like insane left-hander, which is in the shifter not flat. You need to shift down in fifths. But in the kart which I drove was an endurance kart with 340 CCM. So it was still flat, and the sun came right behind this corner down, and it was like really peacefully. It's I think many people can't understand that, but being alone, whether it's in the rig or outside on the track, and having these kind of conditions, being totally by yourself, it's really, really peacefully, actually.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I do some karting on a Sunday, and it's not on my own. There's like 50 other karts there. But what I like is that feeling of putting and it's that cliche, right? I put the visor down and I change into, but I won't go that far. But yeah, right. But it is nice just to be able to write. I can't possibly think about anything else for the next 30 minutes, right? Yeah. I can't think about my emails or my texts or what I'm doing tomorrow. You have to focus. So I suppose when you're on your own and you're going in something as fast as a shifter kart, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, it's totally peacefully, and just the time stops around you. Of course, when you see the sun is going down, the time still works, but it's such a unique experience, and you stop thinking, and everything feels like in the moment, and you just love what you do. And I think that was one of most satisfactory experience that I ever had, because otherwise I already saw the lap times I was setting, and the next day I was also setting these lap times, and it was good enough for pole. So basically, that's also quite kind of nice of experience to connect to that. But the focus is more around this peacefully driving into the sunset while being alone on the track, and that's awesome.
It sounds kind of romantic.
Yeah. I always get kind of romantic when I'm talking back to my karting years, because they were so intense on one side, because my father's Italian and I was a son, and he's very emotional and I'm very, very straight and analytic, and you can imagine that it's not working very well often.
So tell us about your starting karting then. How did you get into it? Is it a family thing? Did your dad do it? And how far did it go?
So basically, I live in Berlin, in Germany, and Berlin has a really, really good situation. So we had at least 4 or 5 indoor karting tracks only in Berlin. And I was always totally into motorsports. as a really young child, I think age of 4 or 5, I had like a VHS only with car crashes. So basically YouTube Nordschleife on a VHS, but with the car crashes and other kind of car crashes. And I was always, when my father came home from the workshop, because he ran a car workshop, I was like, Dad, let's look the car crashes. Like let's look at boom. And let's watch it. And that was, I think, already a sign for my father that I'm kind of attracted to motorsports. And yeah, then he has like a regular group where they're going out for karting. And at some point, I was big enough to get to be able to sit in a kart. And I was this kind of kid that tried really many different sports, but it never clicked for me, except for swimming. But then when I think the first day I knew, the first day when I get into the kart, I kind of felt like that's the place where I wanted to be, and that's kind of cool and gave me the motivation. And of course, I'm a Schumacher child from that generation. That was also like kind of a big emotional connection. But yeah, then I drove karting just regularly in indoor karting tracks, and had like we had like something like driver of the month or something, and then was like the first competition. And my father was like, okay, he seems to really sticking to that, and started to be really good, really fast. And then I made some friends, and when you have friends and they're competing to each other, and then sometimes it's like, okay, let's start a racing team. And then we started a racing team, and we went out from the indoor karting to real outdoor karting, and started a team in the German Endurance Championship, like going 3, 6, 9, 12, 24 hours. Yeah, and I spent 20 years in this championship.
Wow. 20 years in the same championship. You must have known the drivers inside out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of was kind of a family, right? I mean, in the age to 13 to 20, it wasn't never so present to me. That's more like these are my friends and nearly my family. And I was always a kid like, yeah, that's my friends actually, because they know me much, much better than other of all my regular friends. Because when you're back in the paddock and you're chatting, having chairs next to each other, chatting, talking stupid children stuff, and having fun, playing ball or something like that, that's kind of this, I say, regular level of having a friendship. But then you're going, put your helmet on, and you go out, leaving the pit lane, checking whether you cross the pit lane exit or not, going into the first corner, and you see your friend directly in front of you or pushing behind you. You're losing everything what happened before, because on the racing track it's a competitor, right? And sometimes you go head to head, and it even ended sometimes good enough, quite rarely, that you're always you can happen or ending with your friend on the grass, and then you're sitting there and feeling like an idiot, or having some kind of negative emotions towards him. But yeah, that I referred long time more to them that to real friends than to the others, because I think they know me on a deeper level actually than my regular friends. Yeah.
So, do you think you've managed to kind of translate that across from karting to sim racing? Because you've been involved in a lot of sim racing teams, right? And the sim racing teams that you've been involved in, you've done endurance races of 6, 12, 24 hours. How much of the karting experience of being around that kind of team mentality translates across?
Yeah, actually quite many. Because our team was named Scuderia Novo Rosso. So basically my father's Italian, and we had always these kind of Italian lifestyle, like really open, friendly, emotional, good food, late parties in the evening, and when I started my first team, like my first professional team with ad hoc, where I grew to the team manager position, which was really a big of pressure for me because you want to do that well. And like, I think always a team manager should be some kind of example for the drivers, or role model, where they can look up to. Yeah, it was. I tried to get this mentality that they're not like drivers to next to each other. They should basically be friends, because the amazing thing about racing is the feeling when you stand on the podium and can can spray champagne or water at here at the racing rig or something like that. But losing is a lot tougher, of course. But losing is also more challenging, and you can grow more out of losing than in winning. Because when you won, you don't actually get too much data why you won, because you made the best job, obviously, but how you can improve on that. And when you're not finishing first, third, or second, you have to learn something. But sometimes learning is also a process of criticism and productive criticism, of course. Yeah, and that's only working when everybody pulls at one string, and when everybody's like a friend to each other. And that is, I think, one of the key points why we were successful as a really small team. So basically, my team until now consists of 4 to 5 people. That's for a professional team, kind of. I think we are really the smallest one when you put it up to the teams where we competed against. So yeah, this kind of friendship was like, I think, one of the key parts that played the role to being professional. And because you said I transferred to kind of some teams, and actually all of these guys which I'm racing today transferred to the same teams. So basically, it's I would refer like we were at organizations, and the team transferred to another organization. Then we were at teams, to be honest.
Yeah, you must have to be more conscious about building that team spirit and that friendship when it's largely remote, right? So a lot of the teams don't meet each other all the time, so it's not like you can, if you have a tough race, you can go to the pub afterwards and just, shake it off. You have a tough race, you get spun out like in the last 10 minutes of a 24-hour race, then you turn your computer off and you're alone in your bedroom. It's completely different. And then vice versa, you have the best race of your life. You get up onto the podium against all odds and you want to celebrate, but you look around and there's no one there. It's all on the headset or on camera. Like, what have you done to try and kind of combat that?
Actually, in the first couple of years, we didn't do anything like intentionally. But when we joined the digital version of the Nordschleifen Langstrecken series, which is like called in Germany, otherwise NLS wouldn't make any sense. I found that in this competitive spirit where we need to have some kind of balance after these races. So my race engineer Florian Denzler and I started to think about these kind of things, and yeah, we started to play games actually, but not like also playing Counter-Strike or League of Legends or something like that, but also sometimes GeoFinder and these kind of like casual games, because we found out when you play competitive games again, as a competitive person, and I think everybody who's like professional racing, sim racing, is competitive and from his nature. Sometimes you can't shake off this thing, And these kind of casual games where you're like looking at like a Google Maps image and try to find out which track is this or which city or something like that. That's like a good breaker from this kind of things. You're still like competitive, but it's more about the love you have. Like going totally the wrong way, finding, I don't know, like a good pub, but not a racing track or some other funny things. And this breaks really like the mental stress that the drivers have. And we're still doing that. At the moment, we're using a Discord bot, which is named Trivia, which is giving out questions, and you can type in the answers. And yeah, that's also working before the races, after the races. Yeah,
I love that essentially then esports team is using other esports as almost like a break. It's almost like you hear about football teams and they'll go off for training camps and then there'll be videos of them playing basketball or whatever together.
Of course,
so it's not quite the same. Or if you've seen Top Gun 2, have you seen Top Gun 2?
No,
okay, well, no spoilers. No spoilers, but
I'm
obviously...
such a bad fan, man.
You need to watch it. It's incredible.
Yeah, I watched like 15 minutes video only about the jet shots.
Yeah, it's
insane.
It's so good. It's so good. Yeah. You need to go and watch it. But there's an incredible scene, right, where obviously they're a team and they're training for this mission, and in order to achieve the mission, they need to be a team. So one of the things that Maverick goes and does in order to build this team spirit is they go to the beach and they play volleyball, right? Which is of course the original. But it's that same kind of concept. But I love the fact that sim racing is an esport. Everyone's remote, but we can still do it. We can still play like CS:GO or Rocket League or the Trivia Discord bot or like whatever your game of choice is.
Yeah, that's just the freedom we have with being remote and the internet and so on. But also we talked a lot in the last year about seeing us like in person more often. And last year I think we made it 3 or 4 times.
Describe the feeling, and I'm quite excited because I'm going to be meeting a lot of people that I've been working with at the end of the year, which is going to be very exciting. But describe that feeling the first time that you meet somebody in person that you've been racing with for so long. Is it a bit like, because in my head it could go one of two ways. Right? It could either be like a massive hug, a slap on the back, and it's like, hello, old friend. Or it could be like hands in pockets, a little nod. You're right. Like, I don't know. Could it be awkward, or is it completely natural? Like, how did it go?
I can tell you 2 experiences. Okay. I used to race in 2014 and 15 the iRacing World Championship. Back then when we had like the Blancpain GT3 World Championship. And we competed against Redline, Coanda, Apex was also present at that time back then, and other teams like Team Iberica with the best Iberian drivers and so on. And Team Coanda was always like these kind of perfectionists and really cold. You couldn't get a grip on them. They were like slippy and like really, really professional already in this stage. And then we were like, okay, we're competing against each other, but let's get to know each other better, because we're also German and we don't live too far away. And I think it was the first sim racing expo I went to was 14 or 15. And then we had like hotel rooms together and some stuff like that. And I arrived later than my colleagues, and came, I think, Friday. 16 or 17 o'clock, I opened the door and everybody was sitting there on the round table, like totally drinking, already totally up for drinks, and already drunk some people. And I was like, okay, these guys which are fucking us over on the racing track and are so like robots on the racing track, and then you meet them there, like already drunk, passed out at 17 o'clock. And I was like, okay, now I can get the feeling for these guys. Awesome. Later this evening, I can't tell the stories, otherwise it's going to be some kind of Twitter tweet about these kind of things. But this was like the one of these experiences really stick to me because it learned me like never judge people on what's happening on the internet, because I think big thing is that you can't see the people, you're not experiencing them like personally, and that's why some people like feel like a robot or very slippery. But that's just the impression you get over the internet. And also, I'm very honest, I had like this kind of experience where I was like, you're such and I'm telling people like this. Well, I meant to one guy like, you're such an asshole on the track, but in person you're really nice and lovely, actually.
Just the most polite young man ever.
yeah, and then you think like, yeah, but on in the end, they're all racers, you know, and you don't finish races in front when you're like the nicest people, and you'll be like, yeah, just go ahead.
Yeah, after you. Let me hold the door.
yeah. If your team colleague wants to pass too, here I'm staying on the marbles for you. But yeah, so I think the best thing for the community in sim racing is when they have like really tough competitions together, but then meet in person, because that's, for me personally, 99% was always the change also in the behavior on the virtual track, because then they connect the car to this person that they met.
Yeah.
And then the behavior is totally different. Also, after the race, when you had like a small bump incident or something, then the people start to say, yeah, sorry, mate, because they know you.
Because it's more human. You're not racing against an AI.
Yeah, and sometimes it feels like you're racing against an AI.
Yeah, you have no human connection with that car, with that username that's hovering above it.
Yeah,
it's only natural to be less human in your interaction with them on the track, right?
Of course, yeah. And I think that's why it's also a good beneficial point when you try to have connections also via remote, right? So basically just chatting with people after the race, that's also help. But that's kind of rare actually in the current form of competitions.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I really struggle with the amount of kind of online only like relationships you have, especially when you work in sim racing, because it's such a global sport. You can literally be in a bedroom anywhere in the world and get involved, which is kind of great. It's kind of like magical, really. But equally, everybody has a different style of typing in the same way that people have a different style of talking. And I have realized recently that I think I'm maybe a little sensitive. And if I write out a message to somebody, like I don't know, 3 or 4 sentences asking the question, and you get like an NP back, I'm like, oh. What have I done? Or just like, or you ask somebody a favor in like a really long-winded way, and you get like a thumbs up emoji. I'm like, oh, that's it. I've ruined my chances with this person.
Okay, now I know how I communicate with you from now on in the future. But it's totally the same. Like my father is like, you know, I already told you before, having with my father the connection on racing was really tough. And you ask your father something, and then he's responding, yes, you know it, and then ... and it's directly in my head. Okay, he thinks I'm stupid. And
the ellipsis of doom.
and and that's, I think that's one of these kind of things. To be honest, why I'm doing all my business meetings, I try to get the people on camera.
I'm the same, 100%. I had this exact same scenario this time last week, and I know he won't mind me saying it because I said it during the podcast, although he might have minded at the time. But random call sign. Whenever I was speaking to him, asking about the podcast or details or questions, I was getting like not even one word, like just a few letters back every time, and I was like, at first I thought maybe I'd annoyed him, and then I was like, well, if I haven't annoyed him, that's okay. But is it going to be really tough to have a conversation and just get like one word answers? I'm going to have a list of 100 questions. And then I don't know if you've ever spoken to him. He's the most chatty, talkative, interesting guy ever. And he just went off on all these beautiful stories about his life. And it was so different to what I had assumed based on just the way that he types in Discord.
Yeah. So basically, never judge a book by its cover, right?
Never judge a book by its Discord. Okay, so I want to ask a little question about your journey in sim racing and its parallel with our journey as sim racers, right? So sim racing has taken a massive turn, right? In the last couple of years, it's exploded. It's really gone from quite a niche place to be to a very popular, up and coming, rapidly expanding sector of esports. Now, you've obviously been involved in sim racing for a long time.
Yeah.
Can you remember the point at which you suddenly went, you know what? This could be a thing. This could be an industry, and this could be somewhere that I could genuinely work.
Oh. So basically, and that's now like hitting grandpa in the sim racing sector is
Granddad sim racing.
Yeah, it feels really like that because back then when Live for Speed was a thing, in Germany we had the ESL Pro Series, and Live for Speed was a part of that. And I have a really good friend, which is really known right now in the sim racing industry as a content creator for Essere Corsa Competizione. And he was, I think, the most dominant guy I ever saw in sim racing in Live for Speed. And I think he won 6 times on the road to ESL Pro Series, something like that.
Wow.
And back at these times, there was like the Intel Pro Series for sim racing for Live for Speed, and you could win the BMW M6 in the end. And this is like 15 years back. And we thought about being professional back then already. But then in Germany, the ESL and the sim racing community crashed a bit because the ESL wanted to try to to force them to do things which sim racing was not, I think, ready for it. Because when you compare, and I don't want to bash the sim racing community, but sim racing is kind of elitist sport. And I have a good example for that. So sim racing is kind of elitist in the Pro Series. So basically they demand very many things and want to have big competitions. And then you look at Trackmania, which is a title much, much bigger.
Mm.
And the people going to World Finals for 10,000 euros. And they're just happy to go there because they can embrace their sport on this World Final and get maybe prize money out of that. So I think sim racing today is very many people already notice they can be professional in sim racing because coaching and selling sim racing setups, I think, is one of the main income you can get. Driving is hard because you see in real racing, the small amount of people that earn their living through racing is already not many, to be honest. And in sim racing, you have much more competition compared to real life.
It's kind of a more neutral barrier to entry, right? In that in theory, you could buy a G29 or a T150 and compete on the same field as somebody with a Fanatec or a SimuCube. And there are stories of people who have got to those levels with, just desk clamp wheels.
Gregor Hutto, he made his way into the F1 WCS in sim racing, in iRacing with a G29. They already had Redline had a shop back then where you could board his first wheel. So
wow,
yeah. And to close the loop, I noticed quite early that when you want to be full-time in sim racing, driving is the most difficult thing you can do because too much competition, the possible slots to get to a point where you earn money are even smaller compared to real racing. So I was like, okay, then you need to find something where your age and your knowledge is also a factor. And last year, I think after I joined the Haupt racing team and I got some, I got some quite big tasks there. I noticed that, actually, you can't do this. And the biggest issue with what I ever had in the professional background was like I never believed myself. I was like, nope, I don't think that somebody would pay me for that. I thought I could never be a moderator. I thought I never could be a host, could commentate races or doing press releases or talking to the press or like that. And then I started to pick these kind of things up, and that was the point where I had like my turnover, where I thought, okay, when somebody feels the urge to pay me for this, he thinks I'm good enough for that. And when other people believe in you and think you're good enough for that, what the fuck is wrong with you that you don't believe that?
I mean, you're one of the few people, one of the lucky few who works
totally
full time in sim racing. I mean, there are tens of thousands of sim racers who would love nothing more than to be able to immerse themselves in this day after day after day, right?
Yeah, right. But sometimes, even when it's so obvious for others, it's so far away for yourself. And after the Sim Racing Expo, I had a talk with the head of Kovana, it's Michael Ramse. And then we talked about what is the future for me. And you're really right that I was lucky, because even back then I worked in a simulator center and I was the main manager there. So basically, I walked in every day in the simulator center and I had an Audi R8 GT3 there standing. And you just open the door, you sit in and driving in this particular car on 3 big ass 98-inch screens. And and then I was like, but this was nice to manage these kind of things. Helped a lot to get grips on the management side and the business side. But then when I had the chance to really focus on sim racing and maybe helping young drivers to participate in big series or helping to grow their talent, what we're already planning and doing on the back currently, I couldn't say no, to be honest, because it's not for me basically about leaving a legacy or something like that, but I have so much knowledge, I think, and so much to give, and it would be great to think of that you maybe coach somebody or help them to grow. And because of that, they maybe have a successful career, or maybe they have a successful race. That's actually the main point why I'm doing that.
Well, talking of your experience and knowledge to give, we are about to start the qualifying session of our race today. So I actually have so many more questions I wanted to ask you, but what we'll do is, if we jump into the qualifying now, I will force myself not to ask those questions.
Why?
Although I'm quite excited to, but then I will ask you straight after we finish. I'll come back to this seat and we'll do another 10 or 15 minutes, because I want to ask you some questions about the Sim Racing Expo, because it's incredible, right? And I want to
just wait. I need to look up my NDNA. No, just okay.
Yeah, I want to know everything. All the details. Okay. So I'm going to leave this chair. I'm going to go over to my rig, and then you can show us a thing or two with your experience and knowledge on the track with whoever is in the lobby for now. In fact, I think we've got 2 minutes of practice left, which is more than enough.
It's enough.
Okay, so I'm gonna move over. I'm gonna move across now.
Okay. Good to see you on track then.
Hello.
Hello.
I
Are you
have-
already in the track?
I am on the track. I have just transitioned across to the rig. So, talk to us about your choice of car and track. You chose 3, right? So,
Yeah, I chose three.
what were the other 2 that you chose?
So the other one was Laguna Seca and the MX-5, the Mazda MX-5 Cup car. I love this car, to be honest. When we had my old job, when we had like events with Simracing rigs and so on, when we gave it for rent to a company to have like a great company event, I always put on the Mazda MX-5 because it's easy to drive, but it has a big amount of grip and you can drift it when you want to. So it was always a perfect car to have fun, and you can. Where you're heading to?
Oh no! I was just listening to you say that you could drift the MX-5, and in my head I was like, well, my first season of iRacing would disagree. I was thinking
the
about
iRacing
that
MX-5
as I sailed past my braking marker. This is the problem I had last week.
Really different, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that first season thinking, oh, it's the rookie season. This will be fine. This will be, they'll be easing you in gently into racing. It'll be almost impossible to come off, and you can just focus on race. Turns out that could not have been further from the truth.
Yeah, I think that you were a bit blue-eyed there.
Yes, I think I was too.
Yeah, but
okay.
The MX-5 is also, so basically it's a great racing car, and I loved the story back then with Tom McLee, I think, who won this iRacing qualifier and got the real season in the MX-5 car, and yeah, obviously then the other things I talked about the car. And then we had Spa with the Caterham 420, was it 420 R?
Yes, yeah, that one looked fun. That was actually my vote.
Yeah, I hope also that people will vote on that. Maybe Spa wasn't a good combination because they probably imagined it would be
long straights
for the car and slow. But actually, when I was back at the Nissan GT Academy, I had the chance to drive this Caterham. I didn't know whether it was a 420R, but I think it had 300 horsepower or something like that.
Oh, nice.
And we had the chance to drive on Silverstone on that, but then we had the chance to actually doing some competitions against each other with drifting.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, no way you can't drift this car. And then the instructor came and the coach and was like, yeah, here, look, you can do that. And I was like, what? And then he was like, yeah, so please now do that. And we were everybody like, okay, now. Yeah, now do that. And I was like, well, not even on the PC because I have a Formula wheel.
Yeah, that sounds like that would be a lot of fun. The caterhams, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with them because they look like a lot of fun. The racing looks like it's a lot of fun, but my only experience with them is not racing, but being on the track with them during a track day at Donington Park when we were testing the enduro car, so the little 4KA that we race. Yeah. But the caterhams are obviously rapid, and they seem to they're like velociraptors in Jurassic Park. They hunt in packs. So you'll be going down the straight, and then you'll see like a herd of caterhams in a pack behind you, and then they'll all kind of split up and they'll go left and right, and they just kind of engulf you as they go past. It's my first ever track day in the 4KA was terrifying. I mean, I was pretty used to getting overtaken in our 69 brake horsepower 4KA.
Yeah,
but
of course.
The caterhams. The other thing with the caterhams is that they're so low down, right? The 4KA is a small car.
Yeah.
But even in that small car, when a caterham went past you, you could see like the head of the racing driver.
Yeah, it's really down low.
Just going like past your, below your door mirror, your window. It was it was pretty terrifying.
Yeah, but to be honest, big respect to you, mate, because I have such a respect for people going on the racing track with slower-ish cars And this traffic management is just insane.
Yeah, it was pretty tough, but I remember I'd done 2 track days in the enduro car before we had our first race, which was at Donington Park. So we've done 2 races. We did Donington Park, we did Cadwell. Next race is Snetterton in 3 weeks' time. But the Donington Park was actually not as bad as I was thinking, right? I was thinking that I was going to be absolutely terrified going around because it was my first race. Yeah. But to be honest with you, because I'd had to deal with, well, like you say, the traffic management of the caterhams going past for hours at a time around Donington, when I got into the car and I was racing other Ford KAs, it was so much better because I knew at what point they would brake, I knew at what point they would turn in, I knew how they handled. So it was far more comfortable racing with, 45 other cars in close proximity than it was, getting continually overtaken by caterhams on a track day.
Yeah, or it was only caterhams on the track day, because when I mentioned maybe it's like GT3 cars also coming by, I would maybe lost something in the seat after that.
Yeah, I don't think there were any GT3 cars on the 2 days that we went. There were some pretty, some fast like supercars, but no GT3 cars. The caterhams felt fastest. I think it's because of how low down they were.
Yeah.
But also they seem to like passing really close. I don't know what it is about the caterhams, but they like to get really nice and close. So you can almost reach out and just kind of like tap them on the helmet as they go past. That just seems to be a characteristic of the caterham drivers that we encountered. That being said, they look like so much fun, I will admit, and I'm not proud of this, and don't at me, but I did vote for the caterhams with the Gridfinder account, the Gridfinder Motorsport account, and my own personal account, and still we lost.
Yeah, big plus, because I really love these kind of cars also, because now I'm saying something what I shouldn't say, but I think fast cars make shit racing, especially downforce cars don't promote racing. I think like for me, racing is cars being constantly challenging each other, and you have constant passing, door banging, and racing, and not like, the first one is coming 40 seconds ahead of the third one.
Yeah.
Like today. In this kind of small single-seater racing series.
Yes.
And when you see like the most racing series with slower cars, the racing is always intense, like really intense.
Yeah, our enduro car racing. Yeah, and I suppose maybe I would say this because it's my first series of real racing, and so I get quite like overwhelmed and overawed by things. I just get massively impressed by things very quickly and easily anyway. But when I was racing in the enduro car at Donington, it was just such a buzz being so close to these cars, but for like 20-30 minutes at a time. I remember my stint in the race at Donington. The whole time, I think I started when I got into the car. I think I was about P21, P22, and I got up into P10 by the end. But the whole time, the entire stint, I was just constantly either, I had somebody right behind me or somebody right ahead of me, or I was defending a position or attacking. And honestly, my hour, I think I was in the car for about an hour and 15 minutes for my stint, and it felt like 15 minutes. Yeah, it felt like a little go-kart sprint race.
Yeah, but that's also really good that the series is like this kind of crowded, and you have everything around you, and there's so much people racing. Because also in this kind of situations, your talent grows much faster because you experience everything more often. Yeah, well, we had, in that endurance race, I think, we had yellow flags, red flags, safety cars. We just had absolutely everything thrown at us. So by the time we'd done one race, we pretty much knew, what was going to happen and how to react to different scenarios. I learned very quickly that the 4K8 overheats, so you have to have the heater on
full blast so that you get the heat away from the engine and into the cockpit.
Oh god.
So I learned very quickly that as soon as there is a yellow flag, or not a yellow flag, is a yellow flag, you tend not to slow down too much if you can help it, because you're in a 4K anyway. But if it's a red flag or a safety car, first thing you do is get all your windows down. Get your windows down as soon as you can to cool down.
Do you have like electrical windows, or like you still need to do it manually?
You know what? They're electric, but wouldn't that be hilarious if you got a red flag or a safety car, then you just had to wind down the window?
Yeah, of course.
But it was it kind of felt very pure. So we'd be sat under the awning during the race, and there'd be other teams knocking around, chatting about this or that, talking about their strategy or whatever. And then we were sharing an awning with, I think it was 2 other cars or 3 other cars. And one of the cars just pulled in, and clearly the team didn't know that this car was going to pull in. And then all of a sudden, like the front bumper was hanging off, and everyone was just jumping in with duct tape to do what they could to duct tape this front bumper onto the. Oh, that's a wide line. There we go. Follow that. To duct tape this bumper to the car, and it was just such a cool scene to just see everyone just chipping in and trying to scrap together this car. Although that same car came back about an hour later with a very suspicious grid finder orange streak along the bumper.
Ah, shit. You need to explain to the team boss from the other team where it's coming from.
Yeah,
right?
Well, we were sat there and I just saw it and I was like, that's very suspicious. So we turned out that we'd had a bit of a collision.
Oh, okay, but nothing
serious. Well, we had a pretty not serious, but could have been serious collision at Donington, where Toby, team captain, I think he was the first stint. Yeah, he was the first stint. Was going down the hill into the old hairpin at Donington and got spun. Did like a 360 onto the grass and then across the gravel and managed to recover it and only lost a couple of places. Looked dramatic though.
Yeah, Donington is really like a tricky track and also quite dangerous in my opinion.
Donington? What do you think is dangerous about it?
You saw the onboard from Jimmy Broadbent when he spun on the small water patch going into the last chicane.
Oh, okay, interesting. Was that on the GP track or the National?
It was the Nationals without the extension to the back. It was the National one, And he spun and maybe past the tire blocks just half a meter away because there's the apex of the chicane, right?
Yes,
so and he was.
I know exactly where that puddle will have been because there's a big dip that I was using as my braking marker into that final chicane. I can imagine the water pooling up there. That's pretty terrifying in a Praga.
Yes. That's why I think. So basically, of course, it's not like the Nordschleife type of dangerous, but I'm not a friend of these kind of tire blocks because you never know what's happening, and when you spin and hit some kind of these things, it's getting quite nasty. Yeah.
I've just realised that I've had 50 litres of fuel in my car for qualifying.
That's good. I just realised that I already forgot to shift up and forth.
I was saying just before we started this that I was really struggling in practice because I thought that my my upshift wasn't working past 4th gear, and then I realised that there's only 4 gears.
Yeah.
Big error. Right, so qualifying over. But I'm a 1.4 second deficit, but I wonder if fuel will balance that out.
Yeah.
We've got a worrying number of people who registered for the event but didn't turn up. I wonder if that was an issue on my end or whether they just didn't turn up. But that's fine. Have you raced Cadwell Park very much?
No, I just know one thing about Cadwell Park, and that is this kind of jump where there's MotoGP bikes going over, or generally those bikes going over, And I was always, when I saw the YouTube videos about it, I was like, holy shit. This is on a regular racing track.
Yeah, the mountain. Yeah, so the mountain is terrifying, but then at the top of the mountain, you have these very, very cool S-bends. But I don't know what they're like in other cars, but in the 4KA, they were... You could probably... Well, I mean, I know you could. You could get through all the S-bends completely flat out, but that's a pretty terrifying set of corners to go through flat out. So you'd have to like strategically like lift off and work out which one you were going to lift off on and then go flat out to the others. But then at the end of the S-bend, there was a hairpin, and it was a downhill off-camber hairpin. Luckily, with quite a bit of runoff. But that hairpin was my nemesis. So I did a just over an hour-long stint at the end of our race. I think when I started, I think we were P12 at the beginning of my stint. And I think I went sideways around that hairpin maybe 4 or 5 times, but in a row, I was really, really struggling with this hairpin, and that's where people were catching me up. But then I finally made my peace with it, and it turns out, as per always, you just go in slower. Slow in, fast out. If I had listened to that years ago, slow in, fast out could have saved me a lot of hassle. We managed to finish that stint P5.
That's also quite hard when you go downhill and then need to come back uphill. Then you really need to get everything done on the entry, actually.
Alright, here we go.
I have no clue how to start this kind of thing. No, I got the penalty!
I've done the same thing! Oh my god. Are you behind me? Are we all in the pits? Oh no, we're not all in the pits.
Oh, that's good. So now we have time for the questions, right?
Such an underwhelming start. Oh my god. I'm really glad that the video version doesn't go out to Spotify and Apple and Google. Oh, I like that your pit box was a lot further behind mine.
Yeah, that's already like FBA tactics.
That's really good news. So poor old Tom O'Farrell. You have a lonely race.
Yeah, just having the time of his life, going away. just pulling away.
It was pretty close between you.
Yeah, I noticed that. It was kind of challenging.
Oh, okay. He's weaving on the straight. He's, I think he's waited. That is the honourable thing to do.
Yeah, really gentleman move.
All right, now I need to pay that back by at least, yeah. My issue here is that my rear view mirror is off of my screen, and I thought I had mapped my look back button, but it turns out I have not, so I cannot see where you are.
It doesn't matter. Rear mirror just is unuseful weight in the car.
Yeah. Oh, okay. The annoying thing is that Tom is still weaving around the straights, and I still can't keep up with him.
Well. Oh. Forget to downshift.
Ooh, I'm catching him now. Now it's getting serious.
Yeah, don't clip the curb. I can speak from experience.
Yes. The curbs here are nasty. I always try and upshift after 4th. I don't know if you do that. Even though I know that there's no 5th gear,
yeah,
as soon as I hear it, I just start upshifting.
I have a dashboard, and then when you're going to rev limiter, my dashboard is going like Christmas tree. That's kind of awkward, but 4 gears are 4 gears. I think also they have, even today, have the NASCAR 4 gears only, right?
Oh, really? Well, I know that I can't remember who I was speaking to recently. He was telling me all about NASCAR and how you can change your anti-roll bar during the race, and that's like a big strategy thing. Depending on the corner that you're on, different corners will want different like rear anti-roll bar settings, and so they kind of do it all whilst they're in the race, and they have this thing in the car that they twist, and there's a lot to it.
Yeah, also the car has these kind of things, and the weight checker also.
It's I have to admit that IndyCar and NASCAR I've never really looked into, but it sounds absolutely fascinating. I just I'm terrified to commit to watching it purely because of the time commitment.
Yes. So I watched in the replacement always the NASCAR, the eNASCAR, the Coca-Cola
nice.
eNASCAR on iRacing. But this was also kind of late, but still quite insane.
In what way?
Yeah, how tight the races are, because in this kind of championship they all have the same car, like really the same, because it's, I think also the physics under the hood are completely the same.
Oh, okay.
And in real NASCAR you have also some kind of degree of freedom, but not too much. I had like sometimes back a talk with somebody who worked on the mechanical degree and studied a bit around NASCAR. And back then, like 10 years back, the NASCARs had like asynchronous or asymmetrical designed bodywork. So
because they were always turning the same way.
Yes, and for the downforce to help the car to turn left, I think they shaped the inside a bit shorter than the outside, so the car would rotate always left. And then they stopped it because it was too expensive.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I don't know how you know NASCARs are built, but the NASCAR team is quite big actually, and they are building 8 cars at once.
What?
So basically, yes, the big teams build like 8 cars at once.
Why?
Yeah, because every track is different. So they build the cars for the tracks.
That's incredible. I wonder what the difference is between the budget of an F1 team versus the budget of a NASCAR team.
Ooh, I think it's hard to say, but I think that's quite big.
Whoa!
Come on, I bump draft you here.
I know, I nearly lost that.
I think the budget is quite big because in the NASCAR you still have the engine is a big part of what is not too expensive compared to the Formula 1 super high. Oh no!
Oh no, I didn't know!
No! Let's stick into this together. Okay.
Oh no.
You still can drive? You're able to drive?
My engine is blown up?
No!
Oh, I've got a red engine and broken suspension.
No, really?
I can't move?
Okay.
Oh no.
When you come back to pits, the car should be fine again.
Okay, okay.
No. What did you do?
Oh, all the way? All the way? Oh, yeah, I see. You're going to push me all the way to the pits?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Of course. I don't know what your car is doing there.
I don't know what else I could do.
It looks funny from the background.
Oh my god.
I think from how I'm pushing you, I think
I'm getting some decent speed, you know.
We have some kind of ping difference.
I'm going to do this in second, I think.
Ah, okay, I'll do that first.
There we go.
Because every time I punch you, it feels in my wheel like I'm going with 200 kph to the wall.
This is so funny. I'm doing 80 miles an hour with no engine, being bump drafted down the straight. I feel like such a liability. I'm actually going to have to brake for this corner.
No, you can go flat.
Surely not.
Go flat out.
Yeah, flat out. Yeah, kind of flat out. Oh no. Tom Fowler is going to be behind us soon. What the hell is going on?
Yeah, maybe pushing with 3 guys is better.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very kind.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh no.
So you can go down, repair body, suspension, engine.
So I'm fairly sure that Tom raced with us last week as well.
Sorry.
And I spanned then as well. So.
Oh, we have kind of an issue. I can't push you in the pits because you're.
I'm gonna make it.
Okay.
I'm gonna make it. This is fine. Nice. See, there's some things that they can't teach you.
No. Where's my mouse? Okay, here's my mouse.
Okay, I'm getting repaired.
I'm also getting
I
repaired.
was about to say, you must have done some damage to your bodywork.
Oh no, just minor damage.
So Tom O'Farrell raced with us last time, and I think he had quite a good race with Random Call Sign. But I think after this showing this week, I think you might be getting a bit fed up. It hasn't been the racing spectacle that we were hoping for. Oh my god,
I repaired.
this repair time is going down very slowly. You could get some laps in. You're going to have to catch up a few laps with Tom, so I'd get them in now.
Okay.
This is going so slowly. Okay. Whilst you're
waiting.
I'm going to go to the YouTube channel so I can watch you guys.
Didn't you want to ask some questions while we're driving?
Yes. Formula Fanatics. Oh, okay. We've got some good questions here. I didn't realize the questions were coming in.
Chat.
Hello, chat. So, Formula Fanatics group says, what are your plans for your career in sim racing 10 years from now?
Wow. Okay. 10 years from now. Okay. My career personally, or what my goals are. So basically, I would say personally, I want to achieve 7K I rating this year. It's still going tough. Going to be a lot of grinding. And for my sportive goals, I want to have at least 2 full-time sim racing drivers in my team. I want to make it possible to them.
Oh, okay. And what does that require?
Money.
Right. So is that mainly through sponsorship then? Is that one of your roles? Is it to find that sponsorship to make it possible for these guys?
Yes and no. So basically, I'm working on the business development also. So having talk with partners and so on, and not only partners, like I had a call with the German Motorsport Association last week and so on regarding sim racing in the bigger picture, but also having partners who support our vision and what we want to do with sim racing. Because Kovana Gaming not also is sim racing focused. We have one of the best Counter-Strike teams in Germany. I think last time we went top 3. And now going to Sweden for the qualification spot for ESL Pro Series. Also, we are very active on this front. And one of the dreams which we have is like having to be more professional and stepping up our game, having a team house. So you can have access to the players every day and they're living together in a proper way and get to know each other better, and hopefully that transforms into the potential sport of the sector.
Well, okay, well that's interesting though, because obviously sim racing is so remote, as in global. How does that mean that going forward, if you're recruiting drivers, you would recruit drivers who would have to be physically in the same location?
When we make this possible and this kind of dream of us would work, we would try to ask them to move, to relocate to our facility for that.
So that's, we're now talking, like you say, CSGO levels of esport team. Do you think esports viewership? I wonder how sim racing does in terms of esport viewership, and whether or not it does enough to.
Good currently.
Yeah.
The growth is really there. So don't try to make it too long. In the last 1.5 years, 2 years, I had calls with companies outside of sim racing, so non-endemic companies, and they were always like, "Yeah, sim racing, it's just good to currently because of the pandemic and capitalism through real motorsports, blah 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 blah." And I always was like, "Yeah, you can have this opinion, but to be honest, sim racing is there to stay." And currently, we still have better viewer numbers months after months, still not going over 10,000 people, or not too regular, but When you look at the streamers who are driving, and also some of the big events, you have really good viewing numbers. Okay, when you compare it to the League of Legends major world final, that's nothing. But we don't have something like a world final major for sim racing, because we have one issue what other esports titles don't have. We have 5 or 6 titles, and they have just one.
Yes. That has been an issue for sim racing for a while, right? That there is no single focus, and people have tried it. So people, a lot of companies have declared, if you like, the sim racing World Cup. So somebody will, companies. So, well, you'll remember this from the Sim Racing Expo last year. Motorsport Games announced at the Sim Racing Expo that they were going to be holding the first Sim Racing World Cup. But I don't think it got that many viewers. I think it was, it was...
Oh, Digital Motorsports, not Motorsport Games.
Sorry, yes, Digital Motorsports, you're quite right. Yeah, Digital Motorsports and ESE.
Yeah.
They announced that they were going to do the World Cup, right?
Yeah, but I think that was also down on schedule issues, because they planned this one right between 2 series, I think. And yeah, that's also one kind of issue we have in sim racing. There's no season, like in Counter-Strike, League of Legends, you have in the big competitions, you have seasons, like proper playtime from this month to this month. Then you have an off-season and a transfer season.
Yeah.
And that's not happening in sim racing. That's another issue, because that's that's splitting the viewership, because they don't know when they will need to watch what. And that's an issue. And also sim racing is lacking on transfers. So basically, drivers sticking well too long at their teams. That sounds kind of awkward, but it is like this.
Yeah, I wonder if that's because very few drivers are actually on any kind of formal contract. I think a lot of the teams, even the ones that do quite well, it's more of an informal group. I think it's only probably, well, I don't know, you tell me, are we talking 20 or 30 teams maximum that actually have contracts and salaries?
Oh, that's kind of a good question. I rather believe that's not even 30, but...
yeah, I think you're right. I think it's less.
The other issue is, sim racers didn't start to notice, or not start to noticing, that they need to be something else than just a sim racer. Because,
yes.
Because when you're a sim racer, you're not an asset for a sponsor, right? Because you're just driving in, don't understand me wrong, but you're just driving in circles. And a sponsor wants to have something out of you. And what you can make out of somebody is a brand and a story. A journey, when you like to refer like something to that. So
yeah.
When you have sim racers that just having 300 followers on Twitter and tweet once a month, or putting no pictures on Instagram, you're not representing value out of your own talent. You're just having this talent, and it wasn't.
Is that something that you help your drivers with?
Yes, we started to talk about these kinds of things, because social media is something that not anybody is feeling up to, right? Because you need to be some kind of open and love to exposure yourself. And I totally understand that some people don't want this, or personally can't do that because it's not their character. And then you need to accept this, because when you want to do social media, it needs to be authentic, right? And when somebody there and it feels like very cringe, or like he had a gun hold to his head to do that, I think not the perfect way to make people happy.
No.
And
people see through it, don't they? People are so used to social media. Like most people are kind of expert customers and have very high demands and expectations as a consumer of social media. So you have to really know what you're doing, and it's tough to work it out. Yeah,
it's the issue is on social media. it's like, yeah, the brand message, and you can't try and error doing these kind of things. You need to nail that, otherwise your brand is burned. So it's kind of hard, but I was then talking to my drivers and was like, yeah, where do you feel like the most, where do you see yourself on social media? So what would you do rather than what wouldn't do? And some of my drivers, Ben Hitz and Lucas Müller, were like, yeah, we find TikTok quite funny, and we just try to make TikToks. And they're quite successful. So basically last year, I think both of them pulled 1 million views on TikTok, which is not much compared to big TikTokers, but it's quite much in the terms of sim racing. And so we started to find like different solutions for different drivers, because I find it rather enjoying and seeing them happy doing stuff which is more to say needed, and they feel some kind of achievement to themselves when they're doing like more reels or TikToks and see themselves they're successful with that, and that helps to make them realize that social media and being a brand is important. And I think when you want to have like the perfect role model for that, you need to look at Marcel Kiefer from Red Bull, because he's like insanely good on social media, because he has a passion, he lives his passion, he's very, very accountable for that, but also very smart.
What do you think is more important, the social media of the driver or the team?
Basically, what I found out is you can try to do the best social media as a team. It will never work as good as from the drivers, because look at Twitch and look at I worded it wrong. Look at streamers and look at racing streams. It's the same.
Yeah.
A streamer has like 5 to X time more viewers than the racing league, because the racing league is just often very unpersonal. It's just an organization which is showing the race. And when you see then a streamer like Jimmy, maybe, who did also the 24 hours of Le Mans last year, like the virtual ones, and had plenty more viewers than like the official stream. It's not meaning that Jimmy's stream is so much better, even if it's really good. It's just like people can authenticate more with him than the racing stream, because they want to see Jimmy and not every 3 minutes a new pit car that they're not used to, or can't familiarize with that.
Right. It was an interesting race.
Unusual one.
I'm pretty pleased to be on the podium. It'll be probably the first and last time that I share a podium with you.
Yeah, I think that's a good one for a screenshot.
It kind of sums up the race. But that was a lot of fun. I tell you what, I really enjoyed this car.
Yeah, to be honest,
it took some getting used to.
Yeah, and the setup needs to be a bit more drifty. So when you get on the throttle, it should kick a bit the rear end more.
But it's once you kind of get into a flow, it's quite an interesting car to drive. It doesn't feel like anything I've driven before. And actually, this track has been quite nice for it, because this, it's obviously the short course. So there isn't too much to learn, but the track has suited this car, for me anyway, from a learning perspective, quite well.
Yeah, I think so.
A couple of long corners and some fast corners. It's it's been good. Right, I'm going to pull over and move across to my other desk. Be right back.
Yeah, but the rear is just too tight. I would hope that when I'm going third gear and clutch kick, the rear would step out. That's some setup work for the next time.
Hey. I'm back. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Great. The tech is working. Thank you, Mike. Okay, so let's talk Sim Racing Expo. So Sim Racing Expo, I was going to ask some questions about it earlier because I was asking you tell me about the first time that you met the team for the first time when you'd spoken to them so much online and voice and probably even video chat, but then the first time you meet them, because the Sim Racing Expo was the first time that I had met, I don't know, maybe 24 of the people that I'd spoken to or worked with or spoke to on Discord. And I just remember that night in the esports lounge, I think it was the first night in the esports lounge, being at a table with like 7 or 8 people that I felt I knew but had never met in person, and it was incredible.
Yeah, that's good summed up. Yeah, that's incredible. The first time I met the team, so basically my working colleagues from today. So basically, Marcel, which funny enough, talked to me like I think 1.5 past years with me, maybe joining Kovana and maybe let's do something together and so on. And I was always no, I'm happy where I'm being right now, and yeah. Then I got the team to know, or a small percentage of the team to know earlier because I made some hardware reviews with them. But then at the expo it was like really working together under pressure and stress, and that's kind of the setting where you get to know people, really get to know, because when you're like working on schedule, you need to be live on the stream and somebody's missing or forgot to put on this headset and so on, like funny things happening, or generally funny things happening. And yeah, I met, that was the second time or the first time I met my boss directly and spent more time with him. And yeah, funny enough, he's like really direct. I think many people can't handle this. And I think in the first evening he said, "Yeah, you fucker made a really good job." And I was like, okay.
I think that's good.
That's nice. Wasn't a compliment. Yeah, and kind of funny, you have so much respect for these kind of peoples because what actually nobody knows about our company is that we're also building exhibition stands at the Gamescom. And we have one of the biggest B2B, so business to business exhibition stand on the whole Gamescom. I think this year, I think it's 1,000 square meters or something like that.
Wow.
And I can't tell who's there and buying in for... so we make like business launches in there, like soundproof and with food, drinks, all the stuff to do presentations and so on. So basically, we will supply room for meetings, more or less down to the cut. So, and many people don't know this. And the Gamescom is a whole nother beast to the Sim Racing Expo. But the stress before is nearly the same. Now I'm getting both right now. And then it was like I had such a respect for my boss, and still have it, or my boss, because they're doing this all the year, right? So basically, you need to imagine it's like Sim Racing Expo is over, Gamescom is over, 1 week is like recovered, and then it's starting back working on the next year. So, and we were like talking about this, and he was like, yeah, and then let's talk. And there was like, how these kind of people, what they are doing all the day, because they have so much stress, and then talking, I see his calendar like having 5 to 10 meetings a day, and I was like, what the fuck is he doing? How anybody can do that? And so basically the respect was really strong at this point already. And the working relationship with all the other guys which I'm working, which is currently, was the first month a bit strange because I was hired and then I was their boss. And it was like, okay guys, please don't take this personally. I don't expect to be better than you or on a higher person. or higher level, I'm just doing the project management here. So I'm the project lead and I need to pull the strings basically. But that wasn't an issue at all. But yeah, it was really fun to see how they interact with you when you're the co-host or the host. And they're so, yeah, I can do that. Can we do that? And they really asked me whether I could put out my headset and so on. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. Doesn't matter. I'm totally open. Let's do this. Get me up, and when you want to make up, yeah, to put makeup on it. I don't care. And I really had this. I was a bit frightened whether this relationship will break when I'm now their boss, but it's still the same. That's quite cool. And yeah, and basically I'm really lucky and privileged to say that I have a team working in my back, or the guys at my company that are really amazing people. Not only because they're working their asses off, because they have passion, and this passion was really felt at the Simracing Expo the first time I met them. And they still continue to push really hard, even when we, let's say, putting out not too many informations right now for the Simracing Expo, which isn't a bad sign. It's just a sign that we want to do differently to last year. Because when we want to put out informations, or we're building internally like a schedule how we post everything. So it should be more like a journey than like, here is the Instagram post. Here,
yeah,
you know.
Well, it was intense, wasn't it? The Simracing Expo last year felt intense. It was on stage. It was just one thing after another. Yeah. But from a mere spectator's point of view, it felt like it really flowed. And I caught moments between the different interviews where you had like Thomas Jakomeyer up there, and then you had some of like the physics designers up there, and you had Kunos up there, and then Steve went up there, and it was good fun. And then I saw, between everything that was happening, you seemed to be enjoying it, right? But I suppose that's because all the work had been done up to that point, so that it wasn't a case of just rocking up and having some interviews and some chats, and then that's that. There's you probably planned this last week, right?
Yeah, so basically, it means the world to me that you say it felt like really planned and flowing. Because to be honest, on the back it feels always like, this meme, everything is fine, and you sit in a burning room. That's the whole day of feeling you have.
Yeah.
Because every small distraction or thing happening to the show feels like a deal breaker always, because so much happening in the background. Like we had Radio Le Mans as commentators, and we had a Skype call with them because they couldn't be on site because of COVID, right?
Yeah.
So we had a Skype call with them, which had like 3 seconds delay. And my producer needed to make the calls, right? 3, 2, 1, we are live. And these kind of things nobody gets, but in the background, it's totally messed up when you need to say, okay, now oh shit, you're 3 seconds too late because you're 3 seconds delay, and so on, So in the background, it was a bit of fire always, because that's kind of things you need to deal with when you do a show. But I think in generally, everybody enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, everybody knows when you're doing an event or exhibition, it's a lot of work and it's pain in the ass, because you're getting up early. So basically, I stood up every day at 6 o'clock or 7, because then we took breakfast together and then we go over to the exhibition hall.
I think me and Steve were just about getting in by that time.
Yeah, exactly. And then the show was until 18 o'clock or 20. So basically then we made a debrief, 1 hour or 2, less, one and a half. And after that, I go over back to the hotel, and you can't leave actually, because you have so many people who want to talk to you, especially the exhibitors, because they want to tell you when you maybe next day do the moderation, what they're up to, what they want to get focused on. So basically, you get back into the hotel lobby, and there are many people want to talk to you. So you're not just going straight into your hotel room like, fuck it, I worked today. But yeah, because you have responsibilities and you want to make the best show, and then you stay up until 3 or 4 o'clock. So basically, I slept in the 4 days of the expo, I think 20 hours at max. Combined.
That's why you have your week off afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So you can catch up on the sleep for those 4 days. I distinctly remember a moment from the Sim Racing Expo last year. I was on stage racing in the TCR virtual competition.
Yeah, that was amazing fun, yeah.
That was a lot of fun. And that was the first time that I'd been in a motion rig. It was the first time that I had used the Hussunkveld pedals. Up to that point, I just used my my Thrustmaster TLCMs, I think they were. And it was the first time I'd used direct drive. And I was up testing in the car. And we were just doing some practice before the race. And I could hear the commentators. So it would have been the Radio Le Mans guys, presumably. And they were commentating. And where my rig was, it was kind of in the middle, because I think it was a 5 on the right and 5 on the left. And I was kind of in the middle, and I could see the big screen just behind my triple screens. And I was like, I'm sure that's the car that I chose. I'm sure that's my one. So I kind of like did a little bit of a weave. I was like, I'm not sure actually. Anyway, and I carried on going, and I looked up again. So it's definitely mine. So I was going down the main straight, and then I could hear, as I was like, I'm going to do a bit of a because obviously there's a delay on the screen, right? So I'm doing a bit of a weave down the straight just to really show. I'm sure that's me. And then I can hear them talking about them doing like a lap talk through. They've obviously picked a random car and they're going to talk through the lap. And they've chosen, of all people, me, who had been parachuted in. I only found out that I was racing in that on the drive to the Nürburgring a day before. And because then I realized it was me, I came off at one of the corners and I heard the commentators be like, actually, maybe we'll not follow this guy. I don't hold out too much hope for him. And I was like, you're more right than you know, sir.
Yeah, but these kind of things happen. And I think that's quite kind of a beautiful story for the expo, because so many people have these kind of stories. Because the racing online and a stream is a totally different beast to being there physically, and people talk to you or about you directly on the stage, and then that will be streamed.
Yes. Yeah.
That's I don't know why it's different, but it's still different. So it's basically when I stream at home, when I have time to stream at home, and then going back in our studio, which we have at Kovana, we have like a TV studio there, and we do a production internally or for something else. That's a whole other level, and I'm always there a bit more tense than here, because here it's like, I'm doing a stream. Okay, I'm drive.
Yeah. So tell me what you're excited about the most for Sim Racing Expo this year.
That's a question that is rather hard to answer, because I can't answer everything, right?
No, that's true.
It's a very, very fine selected question, actually, because when I just said it straight, I would maybe spoil something. But
well, don't spoil anything.
Yeah, so basically, what I'm right now, I think it's the size. 2 weeks ago, I was at the exhibition ground, and we visited for some general talk. How much weight you can put on the ceiling and so on. That's like general talk, because you have speakers and so on, and maybe you have a stage which is not like this at the Nürburgring, because when the exhibition is growing, also the stage maybe needs to grow. And I stepped into the exhibition hall because we have an esport hall also. And they opened the door, and there was still stuff left from the last exhibition they had the week before, because exhibitions are not built in a day. They're built like 7 day advanced, and then even rebuilding it takes 7 days or so. It depends on how complex it was. So, and I come in, and it was like trucks were driving through, and like 40 tons trucks. And I was like, I talked then to my boss. I was to talk to him like, Micha, that's really big here. And we had like the CAD cat drawing, and we're like, it's really big. Shit. And of course, when it's empty, you get another sensation of a feel. But we have an internal file where we update all the exhibitors coming and where they placed and so on. And that was the first time when I was there and like imagine, okay, maybe that back there is this exhibitor and this one has 300 square meters and this one has this, and then you're like, yeah, I got goosebumps actually. And
that's very cool.
To have this feeling, so basically, sometimes when I'm working, I'm like, oh, this was a really not awful day, but stressful. And then I'm thinking of the image coming into the stores. The doors are open, and every exhibitor is there. And that's like the thing that I'm being really stoked about it, and really, I think that's one of the big things that I'm working towards, to be happy with that. And then I hope the esports hall will find some attraction, and the people will like it, to be honest. Because we're working our ass off, and the stage design took us 2 days, and we worked the stage design always after our regular workout. So basically, worked till midnight or later on this. With the people, 3 people, and we find a partner who's doing also the stage for ESL Katowice and so on. So basically, they're building big stages, and the render is awesome. And I don't think the sim racing community saw something like that before.
Annie, I'm incredibly excited. This is going to be such an event, and I'm also excited that we've just had our first Sim Sundays exclusive. The Sim Racing Expo is going to be big. You heard it here first. Yes. On the Sim Sundays podcast, exclusive from the organizer. It's going to be big, very, very big.
In numbers, 10,000 square meter only the exhibition hall.
That is very exciting. I can't wait. It was honestly the highlight of last year for me. It was such a great event to meet everybody in person. Yeah. The exhibitions were great. The competitions were a lot of fun, and it was nice. It was just stuff going on. You know, it felt like it was alive. We have to move on because we're running out of time. So I need to ask you a question from Random Call Sign. So every episode, we're going to ask each guest to ask our next guest a question. And obviously, I've already told you, no spoilers yet, who our next guest is. I did the same for Random Call Sign. So you've had some time to think. When it gets to be your turn to ask a question. But Random Call Sign's question to you is, how do you manage the egos of a team of very competitive drivers? He doesn't mince his words. Random Call Sign.
Sometimes I wish I would give them some, these beds with styrofoam on it.
Right.
And just put them in a dark room, and then close the door and hope somebody comes out alive. No, but just joking. To be honest, I'm very happy about it that the egos are very, very good aligning in our team. So basically, they come really good along to each other, because some of them are already friends before they started to race for us. But even friends have some things that they never experienced before in their friendship, and I try to remind them to stay humble and to remind them that they're professional and they should forget that even when we lose, they won before, and winning is not always guaranteed. Doesn't matter how far you prepare, how good you are, and maybe also how easy the competition is. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm to be 100% to be honest. We also, canceled the contracts of 1 or 2 drivers because they didn't fit in.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting that it's, pace is one thing, but then
No, pace is
having
one thing. You can get nearly everybody fast. I'm totally confident on that.
Yeah.
The question is just the time and how big the will of the driver is to work. But it is everything starts and ends with your own working attitude and your own will to commit to a greater purpose. Well, because that's actually the thing in a racing team, committing to the greater purpose.
Well, Danny, I have no doubt, having spoken to you this week, that Kavana Sim Racing is going to do incredibly well in every competition, except any competitions where the Grid Finder team is racing, because then, it's neck and neck.
Let's see. The thing is, we got new people into the team, and what I'm not doing to my drivers is setting goals that are not achievable. And at the bootcamp, we sat down in our meeting room. We had like a regular drawing board, and we're like, okay, goals. And we asked every driver what is his own goal and what is his goal for his team. Was quite interesting to see, to be honest. But as a team manager, you can't set goals that not aligning with your team, probably, because otherwise they maybe cut your throat at the end. No, no, but so at the end it should stay fun. And I had a time where I lost my spirit and fun around driving sim racing, and I don't want to have this for my drivers. So basically, we will take part in the ERL, like this big format from the VCO, where 30 esports teams driving on 3 different sims. And I already got asked from 1 or 2 news outlets how we will perform because we're so good on iracing on the Nordschleife and so on. And I was like, I don't care, because that's like the first races we will have. And to say loud in public, yeah, we will be amazing and good, I have no question, would be a lie, and also not fair to my drivers, because they need to grow, and some of them have the experience to go against some of the best sim racing drivers out there, because they drove Formula E, because they drove Virtual Le Mans or DNLS or something like that, and some have not. So I would put pressure on them, and I don't want to have this. So basically, I said loud and clear, we need to grow, and success is not coming from immediate pressure; it comes from work. And those guys, so basically, they couldn't take part this evening because they said to themselves, "We would love to join, but next week we have this R Factor 2 championship, and we need to get data in." And we need to analyze data. We have to make a debrief today to look out how is somebody driving and how they can basically make out of every driving style the perfect lap, and then train the next week this perfect lap.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible the amount of work that the sim racing teams are putting in at the moment. And I think it's because they see where sim racing is going. And it sounds like your team is going to be in a very good position. I need to move on because we are running out of time.
Yeah, I'm talking too long.
So I've got no, it's fine. So our next guest next week is 2020 Britcart champion and Motorsport Woman ambassador, Jem Hepworth. So, Danny, what is your question for Jem?
I find it always quite interesting what kind of give me a second. I looked up the word before. Yeah, what kind of quirks drivers have? And I want to know from her what is her quirk before going into the car. That's always so interesting because some drivers I know have two different true colors. Some like kissing their cross, and my sister always had like racing socks. So yeah, what is her quirk before she's going into the car? What is her ritual? Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much, Danny. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. It's been so much fun. The race, there were 3 of us on the track, and yet that was probably one of the most fun races I've had, mainly because I had to get bump draft half a lap to get into the pit in order to repair. But it was great, and I look forward to the Sim Racing Expo at the end of the year. It'll be nice to see you in person again. And thanks a lot for coming.
Thanks a lot for the invitation. To be honest, I find always podcasts at the end always too short because there's so many to talk about, so many left to talk about, and so on. But I hope how do you say viewers? No, listeners.
Listeners.
Your listeners.
Yeah, we're live on Spotify now. This episode will go live next Sunday morning.
I hope they have fun, and when they have questions, they can just forward them through you.
Where can they get in touch with you, Danny?
They can get in touch everywhere except for OnlyFans.
I've got that one written down. I was gonna. I've ruined my own joke.
Sorry.
I was gonna say you can find Danny Giusa on Facebook, Insta, Twitter, and OnlyFans, where he also sells his setups.
Oh yeah, we had a chat before about that. No, but jokes aside, I'm very active on Twitter. My handle is actually my name, Danny Giusa. Also on Instagram and Facebook, but Twitter is like my main platform because all the other esports drivers are there and the teams. And Instagram, I'm having a lot of photos. So basically, I think they are reaching back 7 or 8 years. So basically, you see me a lot younger, with a lot of funny hair. And also what I've done before I was a professional in sim racing. And yeah, so if you like to talk about something about the expo, just reach out. I'm more than happy to answer your questions and maybe give some light into the dark about the sim racing expo when there's still things open.
Excellent. Okay, cool. Thank you very much, Danny. It's been an absolute pleasure. Next week we'll be. It has been fun. It's been fun. Yeah. And I hope this isn't the last time we talk between now and the Sim Racing Expo.
Yeah, it would be a shame, actually.
We'll make something happen. Okay, so thank you very much for listening. We'll be back same time next Sunday, as always. Every Sunday, 8 o'clock UK time, we'll be doing the stream and the race. And then the episode will go live the following Sunday. If you want to get involved in the race, then you can join us on Discord at gridfinder.com/Discord. You can download the podcast from Spotify. You can watch us on youtube.com/GridfinderTV. You can find us on all of the socials. And if you want to join in with our fantasy league, go to gridfinder.com/GridRival. Brilliant. Thanks a lot. See you next time.
Thanks. Goodbye. Good evening.
Bye.